what's going on. And Ben is going to show us all about what Paint Handy does. It makes painting much easier, especially in hard to reach places. So let's welcome Ben Mayberry of Paint Handy.
Okay, I don't know, I guess I hold this. This is my first time. I've been to the 1 Million Cups a couple different times, and I was asked to present last time, so I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to be a Tulsa-based company. We are Paint Handy LLC, and we have a better way to paint. You know, there really hasn't been an innovation in painting in the last 40 years, since the roller, actually, and that was actually created out of Canada. So Paint Handy is an anti-gravity paint containment tool. It allows you to be Spider-Man with paint. I mean, you can go everywhere, upside down, any angle, any direction, and not ever have a fear of losing paint from your container. And then it loads a brush in about a quarter of a second. So it's very, very fast to load a brush, about 3 seconds to load a mini roller. Most of your time-consuming areas of painting is your cutting, all the cutting work, walls, ceiling, trim, ceiling to walls, trim to walls, that type of thing. So with Paint Handy, it just makes that process so much easier when you're not worried about your paint or stressing over where your paint is so you don't knock it over. How many people in here have ever blown on a duck call? Two. How many people in here have ever painted anything? Okay. So everybody paints at one time or another. I've heard so many times that people say, I hate to paint. And I go, I love to paint. I love to paint, so it's really hard when somebody says, I hate to paint. So one day in Owasso, I was on probably the largest residential job I had ever done. And I didn't know what to charge, so I just charged 4 times the price of what a normal house was because it was 4 times the size. And I got the job, and it was on that job site that I discovered Paint Handy. And I was pulling off the job site the very last day I was there, and then I noticed, I looked back at the house, I didn't even see the area that I had forgotten earlier in the job, but I'd forgotten a little spot on the soffit, and I turned to look at the house, and I was driving off like, oh no, I forgot that area of the soffit where we ran out of paint that day. Everything was packed so tightly in my truck that I was just trying to grab the paint can, trying to grab a brush, trying to grab anything. I didn't really want to take a gallon can up the ladder with me because I was right over the driveway. I mean, the cars are there now, and I'm going to be out there on this high peak. So I get my ladder down, get it up there, and I'm looking for something to ladle the paint onto instead of taking that big gallon can because I couldn't reach anything else. A piece of cardboard or something, and I found some material. And so I just started ladling the paint onto this material. And I went up that ladder, and I noticed that paint was not coming off of that material. And I noticed how fast it actually loaded the tool, the brush. And how much paint it actually held was just mind-boggling. Just a little bit of square of material. And so on the way home, after I finished that, I could not get it out of my mind. I thought, what if I could increase the surface area of this material, this bristle material? What would that be like? And I pulled up my driveway and literally hit the garage door, walking through the garage, and I looked over and I see a Frisbee upside down. And I thought, that'd be the perfect carrier for this material, so I put it in the Frisbee. At that point, the next day, I literally built a prototype that night, went to Lowe's, built a prototype, took it out secretly on the job site. Nobody knew about this thing for 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, I was like, okay, coast is clear, right? And I would use it, and when I come home, I got giddy every time I tell my wife, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe this, what I was able to do and how fast I was able to do it. You know, those types of things. So I made a prototype, and I added to the prototype each time. I added a strap to it, so I was just carrying the Frisbee like a plate. Then I added a sidewall to it, because sometimes you have to rake a tool off on the sidewall, and you didn't want it dripping off the sidewall. So this evolved, and I was doing jobs various times, and I couldn't pull it out all the time to use it, so I wanted to find out if there was any cons to this thing. Because, you know, when you come up with a good idea and you go, oh yeah, I didn't think about that later. I didn't want that to happen, so I wanted to be the one that found all the cons. If there were any cons, I wanted to be the one that found them. So I would use it. I just didn't plan on using it for 7 years before somebody said, you need to take that off the back burner and put it on the front burner. And when they did that, the very next day I put it on the front burner. A week later I had an angel investor. And it just started to compound from there. We got a real prototype out of have you ever heard of a three-dimensional printer? We could literally print this product out, the Paint Handy out, looks exactly like this out of a digital printer or a three-dimensional printer. Crazy. If you can think it, it took an hour and a half for my CAD guy. We found a CAD guy. He digitally drew it on the computer. It took an hour and a half to draw what you see there. And then he had to put all the measurements to it and all that. It took a little longer to do that. But that's how quick we were able to get a prototype built. And then I was carrying around a $1,400 Paint Handy. And I thought, man, 3 jobs I could pay for this thing. That's how fast I was. I did a cabinet job in my own home about 6 years before Paint Handy, and it took me 26 hours to do that job. 26 hours. 6 years later, my wife commissioned me with a smile, and she said, you know, those cabinets would look really nice black. Okay. I did that entire job in 8 hours. That's when it clicked for me. I could not believe the difference it made in the speed and efficiency and the quality of the job after I was done. So that's when it clicked. Friends prodded me. I had family support, amazing family support. I forgot about my slides, so we may do that in Q&A. Okay, some of that. But you know, family support has been amazing, and Paint Handy is an anti-gravity, no-spill paint container and drip-free from the tool to the wall. So with that, we have been able to do some amazing things. We sent out a press release. It went all over the world. We've got Australia, Kuwait, Ireland, Canada, Mexico. Everybody's calling about Paint Handy. And we're going, yikes. You know, because it is a new entrepreneurial venture for me. I've owned my own business, a small business, but not anything of this scale. So we're working on scaling ourselves to the kind of demand that we're getting.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we're going to open it up for questions.
Can we see how it works?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Okay, this was our friends and family coming over and helping me put the strap in when we had an order from QVC for 4,000 of them, and we didn't even have the product when they put that order in. We didn't even have the physics. We had the prototype, but we didn't have the product. So the problem with the industry is everything that's advertised out there has got paint dripping and spilling everywhere. So they're masking the problem, but they're not curing the problem. The problem is, how do you paint without spilling it? How do you paint and get it exactly on the wall or the trim piece or any place that you're painting, the furniture? The vision, there's our prototype, 3-piece. It's got a base, and this yellow liner snaps in. You pour the paint into here, about a pancake. If you're pouring pancakes, making pancakes, pour a pancake size, good big pancake in here. It'll take about an 8 to 9 inch pour, and you can put in just under half a quart in this and still maintain anti-gravity status. You can load it further than that, but this is the prototype Frisbee. You know, you can set it on a high-pitched roof, it won't slide down. You can put it on a hedge, and it'll just sit there on a hedge. So you can set it down, you don't have to always have it on your hand. When you're climbing up a 32-foot ladder like that far picture with that blue glove on, that's 32 feet, and I wasn't even worried about my paint spilling. So I can have a full grip because I can reverse hand it on my the back of my hand. Okay, here is
The quick demo. This is a Paint Handy. It's a super light. Lots of paint in there, as you can tell. So I'm just going to flip this over. No paint. Flip it over. No paint. So this is just absolutely crazy good when you're knocking demo. Look at this. I'm going to drop it from a foot in the air. Bam. No pain.
It has a wicking effect. These little tiny bristles in the base liner, these little tiny bristles in here actually cling to the paint, and they wick the paint toward it. And the way it interacts with a tool, your brush, is that when you press your brush to the surface, it goes in between every bristle of that brush and loads paint into the bristles. You never have paint climbing up the brine with the stock of your brush. It's always right down there where it's supposed to be, and loaded in a quarter of a second every single time, perfectly and uniformly every single time you hit the surface. So you don't have a lot of off-surface time. I'm sorry, I need to stop for questions.
That was
I'm
great.
just talking.
I've got a question.
I'm new at this.
I'm so inspired to paint now. So
Yay!
taking notes. Thank you for presenting. Fantastic. I was just wondering what your target market is and basically how you propose to scale up. Because it sounds like a lot of people are wanting your product. Are you ready for that?
That's a good question. Really, our first year and a half to 2 years was fumbling through and trying to figure out how to do just that. The secret sauce of putting the liner inside this plastic part was very difficult. And so we finally found a company that can do that for us. So we don't have any problem making the plastic parts and actually installing the liner. We have manufacturing now and are confident in that manufacturer's ability to scale up. They have 6 machines that run our mold. We will have to do a dual CAD mold where it'll drop 2 at one time or 4 at one time, that sort of thing. But they build the tooling there in-house if they need to. So we feel like we're ready to scale up in that degree. We acquired some partners, financial partners, but not only financial partners, but they're strategic partners. Individuals that know how to take a product to market successfully. So we feel like we're ready now to scale.
And your target market?
Our target, thank you. Our target market is anybody who paints. Like everybody rose a hand in here when I asked that question, because everybody's painted at one time or another. Most of you who are procrastinating are doing so because you hate to paint. You hate the method of painting. You hate the process. You have to mask it off and all those things. I have been able to efficiently load a tool so quickly and with just right amount of paint. I use very little to no tape or masking material or paper or plastic or anything like that. Very, very little. That's amazing, because usually the prep work is so extensive. So, target market, anybody who paints. Even, how many times have your children come up to you and said, "Can I paint, can I paint?" Right? When they're painting, they want to be right in the middle of it. You never give them a quart of paint and say, "Yeah, go ahead." You could give them a paint handy. They can typically shoot, hit the coloring book, right, with their crayon, same thing, and they can paint.
Can you talk about your intellectual property journey to protect your investment? And then secondly, it sounds like you are keeping the manufacturing and distribution in-house. Is this something that is a long-term, I guess short to medium term, that you're going to do in-house, or are you looking for somebody to acquire it and start manufacturing it, maybe like a Rubbermaid or something like that?
Well, yes, we are intending on keeping it in-house. We're trying to keep it in the U.S. on our manufacturing level. And we really, really have competitive margins right now in the bidding. So that's exciting to me. We are not setting out to be acquired because we have 9 other products to build into the line. Because when you create something new, there's a peripheral effect around that you have to build out that line because it offers a new dynamic. So we have a line of products that will be coming out. Did I answer all your questions?
Intellectual property?
Yes, intellectual property. The first thing I did was I talked to somebody who had gone through the patent process, and she referred me to a patent agent. Who wasn't an attorney, but was a patent agent. So we filed a provisional patent on Paint Handy. 1 year later, we turned that into a design patent. We filed a design patent, and about 3 months after that, we filed a utility patent on it for its method of use. So what does it do? It's anti-gravity paint containment. So we won't get our first office action back probably for another year on the utility, but we have achieved, through 3 office actions, our patent on the design. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I feel like it's gonna get like Shark Tank right now, but like, what does it cost to make it, and what are you selling it for? Because I think it's incredible. I got some people you need to talk to.
Thank you. Right now, our cost of goods is we're right now working on completing our packaging costs and things like that, because it's just been in a box and shipped out online, so we don't have to do anything fancy. But we are undergoing that cost right now, and with that cost, we think we'll be around $6.50.
Markup?
Markup right now on our website is selling for $37.99. By the time they check out, it's about $45, and nobody has balked at it. However, our goal is to bring that price down, get our volume up, bring our price down, be able to meet a price range that'll be more of a spontaneous, purchase.
Not so much for contractors, but everyday.
The DIYers, that's who desperately needs help. But if I were a contractor and I had a 26-hour cabinet job and I could do it in 8, wow, what a huge difference in, the financial side for a contractor as well.
Dibs.
Yeah, I love your excitement about your product. It makes me excited
Thank you.
to see
Yeah.
your excitement. I was going to ask about the patent also, but the second part is, have you seen any copycatting out there, and what are your thoughts on how you guys are going to protect yourself against? I know you have the patent out there, but
Sure.
that doesn't prevent everybody.
It
from
doesn't,
trying
right.
to, printing the same thing.
Exactly. I think your best protection is the speed to market. That's your best protection. However, inside the U.S. for sure, we can stop that. But outside the U.S., it will be a little more challenging. We are doing additional patent filings now in countries that have the strongest interest. But the provisional patents that we file, in addition to Pay Handy, a lot of times that deters that investor because they don't know what's under the hood. They don't know what's next. They don't know if you're improving what you have. They don't know that. So we'll have multiple provisional patents filed, and when they look at our patent, they'll see provisional filings as well that a lot of times will cause that competition to think at least twice about it.
You had mentioned taking on investor partners and things like that, and I understand that gives you access to funding and some, industry knowledge and all that, but what sort of equity, did you have to give up some equity in the company? How much? If you could do it again, would you do it differently?
Well,
how do you navigate that?
we are very fortunate to come out as good as we have at this stage, because it was a challenge in the very beginning. We had so-called experts, approach us, and it was a disaster. So, but yes, we had to give up some equity. We will always maintain controlling interest in that contract, the way it's set up. But we feel really good about it because there's money in strategic partnership. But yes, I did have to give up, some equity to the company. But that's the only way to launch the company, really, for us.
So you talked about your target customer is anybody who paints. How are you currently getting these products to them? I know you talked about your website. Are you also looking at big retailers like Home Depot and Lowe's? What is that process looking like, and what do you hope it will look like in a few years?
Great question. Yeah, we would like, right now we're, because of our stumbling blocks that we had, we were real resistant at blowing it up, because if you can't meet the demand, then you've got dissatisfied customers. Right now we don't have any of those at all. We've been able to supply the demand and, move ahead. So now we're ready for that explosion, but we would like to, because it's an educational product, there is some education. If you went through the aisles and you saw that, you wouldn't have a clue what it was for. So there has to be a real effective point of purchase marketing campaign for Paint Handy to sit on the shelf, or it's just gonna sit there. Because you go in there knowing what you want, because again, the painting industry hadn't changed much in 40 years. So the DR campaign, we are looking at a direct response television campaign that will give it that education and blast that for about 8 months. But before we do that, we're going to work hard on social media aspects to get because it's a demonstrable product. You can demonstrate it so well that it does capture attention and create interest very, very rapidly. I mean, there's tests along the way. We didn't design this to go in a 5-gallon bucket. It's like a piece of Tupperware. We didn't design it. I just made that discovery one day on the back of the patio. Okay? There's some really cool things about it. You know, but there's the holes in the guards and the groove around the outside. There's reasons for that because that was the build out. In the very beginning, I knew what I wanted to build out from it. But big box retailers, they won't, unless we have an advertising campaign alongside and behind that, we don't want it sitting on the shelf and gathering dust. So what we'd like to do is launch more in the social media aspect. In fact, Andrew Nars, our PR, he's the man that launched the first press release. This old house inquired, and we got, you want to just talk on that real quick, if you would. This is Andrew Nar. Andrew's, talk about the social media aspect and the press release.
Absolutely. Well, this was an extremely innovative product, as you can see, and for a PR person, it's kind of a dream come true to have something that's a true innovation to be able to put out in the marketplace. But to kind of answer some of the questions about the demographics and things, is we kind of found out early on that women were actually doing more of the painting than men, which was kind of a huge strategic shift for us. And so from the outset, like you said, we did a press release, but that was mainly around the announcement that the product was on QVC. But we took a lot of time in reaching out and doing personal relationships to mom bloggers who were very active in the DIY community, as well as reaching out to the DIY publications. And so it was a great help because part of our mantra too, like Ben has mentioned, is that we want people to enjoy painting. And so we feel like we've got a product that could actually help grow the market instead of taking away from other things. So that's kind of our strategy. We're building out Ben as the paint handy guy to kind of be out there and be this ambassador about the fun and the joy of painting and things like that. But we were very fortunate early on that This Old House magazine called me about 5 days in a row saying, well, first they called and said, can we get more to test? We overnighted it. The second day they called and they said, now how much can you put in there? And we said, nearly a quart. They called back the next day, nearly half a quart. They called back the next day, are you sure it's nearly half a quart? Yes, it's nearly half a quart. And by the end of the week, they had named us one of their top 5 products of the year in 2013. So, and they're big advocates for us. But what's been great is that the mom blogger community has really embraced it. We actually encourage them to use it with their family, and we have pictures of their children in their painting on the new baby's room and things like that. So that is really kind of helping us extol the virtues, not of the product, but also the joy and fun of painting, which is what we're really trying to do. But we've been on Rachel Ray, we've been on Fox and Friends, we've had exceptions. We were just in Men's Journal as one of the manliest products that you need to have, but women, it's good for you too. So, so we've had great reception, but like Ben said too, we had to scale back some because the demand was becoming so big, and the acceptance and the excitement is, success can kill a company as easy as failure can. And so thankfully we're in the process now of building the infrastructure, the packaging, doing all the right things to make sure that can truly achieve, what its potential. So.
I agree with Scott. This is really exciting. I have a few different kinds of questions. One is, and sorry. So I see the main competition. I don't mind painting. We painted our house. We painted everything we move into. We paint it every time. And I really don't mind it. And so when I'm at Lowe's and I'm walking down the aisle, I see that little orange ring that goes around the top of the can as being the thing that keeps me from spilling paint everywhere. that's about $3. So I'm curious how or what price point you can get it down to if you really want to hit that DIY market. Can you really get it down to be a competitor with that little plastic ring? I know it serves a different purpose, but to me, the DIYer, I really don't see the difference.
Well, that's important.
And then my next question is it reusable? So that when I pay that $40, I know that I'm going to be able to, over the next 3 or 4 moves of my life, as I repaint, our houses, I'm going to be able to actually realize the difference between that $3 ring and this paint handy.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, the ring is certainly an aid to pour paint and not spill it from your drip it down the side of your can, which is great. There's another rubber funnel type lid that works fantastic for that. I use it a lot to pour paint into the paint handy. But our price point, we're goaling about $19.99. Okay, that'll bring it to more of a point of purchase response, without thought. But Paint Handy is unique in its ability to load a brush and load a roller very, very rapidly and completely. It's amazing how I can do a demo for you here in a second too. So, in fact, let me just do that because that really kind of explains it all. I have one pretty bad. I actually loaded this with paint last night. Hang on just a second.
Derek, if you put your finger in it to make sure it's
Yeah, you might want to. I mean, you can actually come up here and help me paint. This is just a mini roller. Oh, he wants me to turn upside down, right? So you can walk around at anywhere in your house, not worried about dripping the paint from the tool. Even the tool, when you load it, normally you got the stuff dripping off the tool. It doesn't drip off the tool. So when you load your roller, the paint handle, okay, you see how one rotation, up and back, really.
so it doesn't have really ridges like a normal metal pan.
Right.
Right.
Well, and to your point about this, that is, again, that's what the paint industry has done, is just continue to mass the product, pour it out. That's not what it is. It's out of the thing.
It's not as much the pouring it out, it's once it's out of the can. And what you have here is that you're still pouring it into a Dixie cup or some of these liners or anything like that, where you're spending a lot of time dipping and dunking, and you get a lot more paint that gets up in your brush or your roller and it squeezes out the side. So you lose a lot of paint. That becomes messy in itself. You're spending a lot of time wiping it off, just trying to get it right to where this loads perfectly every time, as you can see, either for a roller or for a brush, because the way when you dip the brush in, see, it only goes to a certain level, but it loads it perfectly every time. So it is, and that's what. That's right. Well, and because you really get a pro looking finish at the end too, because you are managing the paint not only in your hand but on the utensil, on the tool as well too. And so that's what we really try to promote, is the idea that you can get a pro finished product in a short amount of time, and you don't have those worries of the waste and the cost with all these other ancillary products.
You don't have a lot of off-surface time. Off-surface time is when you run out of paint, you go over here and you dip and dunk, and then you slap off the paint, you wipe it off, and then you maybe take 1 or 2 steps up the step ladder and start painting it. That's off-surface time. That adds up.
Can you address the question of reusability?
Yes, thank you. I remember somebody asked that. Was it you? Yeah, reusability. You just wash it out. My paint handy, my prototype was the liner was duct taped in, reverse duct taped in. I had it for 5 years. I wash it out, and I actually had to change the paint. Chase the paint underneath the liner because it wasn't blocking onto the plastic liner. It was still so worth using because it made my job so efficient. And then, if I went to lunch, I could just take it and just turn it upside down and leave it there. If I didn't have a plastic bag, I just leave it upside down, maybe on a washable surface or a plastic or a, and it's its own lid.
And then also
What will happen too is that even though you'll see a tint after you wash it out, because there's a squeegee where you can take out the excess paint and put it back into the can or wherever the container came from, or you can put it in a Ziploc and it can last up to 4 or 5 weeks and take it out and just reactivate it. But you can use the same one. There'll be a tint of that, like if you started with the blue paint and you wash it out, there'll be a blue tint, but it has a zero effect. You can put a green or a red in. Yeah, it won't have any effect on the next colors that you can put in. And one thing too, I'll also mention is that material will allow you to hold up to 4 to 5 colors at one time, and they won't run together. And that's actually been very exceptional with commercial painters, because they say at the end of the day, when they have to do touch-ups, they're not carrying around 5 or 6 cans. They can put what they need on there and go through the house and have it all done.
So muralist, artist.
Okay. My name is Ron Skelton. I grew up in this town as a painter's son. My father painted. I painted myself over hundreds of houses growing up. My father worked in Anchor Paint for 44 years, mixing paint for people. And that's an impressive...
My favorite product.
Anchor Paint, yeah. Anyway, that's an amazing product. One thing I did notice is that when you brought it in here, you had it in a plastic bag. As a painter, you know that if we got to run somewhere, those plastic bags are key because the paint won't dry up. You can throw a paintbrush in a Ziploc bag, zip it up, and go. Or if you've got it, even if you're gonna, like, we painted all over the weekends because my father worked in Anchor. We throw them in the refrigerator. Mom didn't like it because if it was cool and covered with plastic, it didn't matter. We could just keep using the roller. Is that lid flip over and locked down so you can actually trap the air out of it and then?
We did a video shoot at my house, and
Ben, could you use the mic so that we can
Oh, yeah.
hear it on this video?
we did a video shoot at my house, and then News Channel 8 came out 3 days later, and I thought, what a great opportunity to take the liner and leave it upside down on my bathroom counter for 3 days. And I look in there, and gosh, it still hadn't dripped out, right? So 3 days later, News Channel 8 came out, and Charles Ely did a report on it, and I lifted the liner up, and it was still just as wet. Even the counter had condensation on it. So it's a very high seal. If you take a new paint in and stick it on a window and suction it down, it'll stick there like a thing in your shower. Yeah.
This is awesome. Okay, so the very last question, of course, what can we as a community do for you?
Well, I think, paint. Get that procrastination out and take on that project. We had a lady in front of ours that really has wanted to do her house for a long time, but had this one room that she really wanted to get done. She got her paint handy. She did that room and never stopped. She did her entire house, every bit of it, because she was so enamored with it. And she'd be our best spokesperson, really. So it will really take the procrastination out.
Okay, we're going to have to wait and do questions afterwards, sorry. I know there's a lot more questions going. But let's give it up for Ben and for paint. So Ben's going to hang out afterwards, so if you have more questions, I know there's a lot more. So we've got a couple announcements real quick before we move on. Okay, so it's time to give away a mug. Where is the mug?
Right here.
Baron would bring the mug up for us. All right. So if you've noticed at 1 Million Cups the last few weeks, we've had some lovely illustrations on our chalkboard here, thanks to Mr. Scott Taylor. So for the mug, if you can identify the character drawn on the mug, please raise your hand. Oh man, okay. Let's go with right in the glasses. And Jeffrey with the other glasses, we need you guys to come up here real quick. You're gonna regret having volunteered for this. Okay, you're gonna arm wrestle for the mug. So please take a seat, take a seat, take a seat. All right. Now, here are the rules. We're gonna play, no holding on the edge of the table, okay? Play nicely, no kicking each other under the table. So, okay, let's put your arms up, get them right in position. On the count of 3. All right, so who do we think is going to win? Do we think Jeff's going to win? And what's your name? Lacey. Who do we think Lacey's going to win? All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go.
Come on, Lacey. Come on, Lacey.
Lacey. All right, thanks for being good sports, everybody. Lacey enjoyed the mug. All right, thanks for being good sports, everybody. All right, a couple announcements real quick. Newsletter, make sure you sign up for the newsletter if you're not getting it already. Tulsa at 1millioncups.com. You get all the announcements, plus we'll let you know who's presenting each week. Also, if you participated in Global Entrepreneurship Week last month, get on and take the survey. I think you can get on the GW website and sign up, take the survey, let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what we can do better next year. Also, we do not have 1 Million Cups for the next 2 weeks. It's the holidays, so we're gonna take a break and we'll be back on the 7th. But before then, we had a second presenter today, but they had to go for a family emergency, so they'll present in January. But we've got eggnog and cookies in the back. So hang out, talk to Ben and Paint Handy, ask questions, mingle, chat with people. That's one of the reasons we do 1 Million Cups, is so that you can meet people. So go out and say hi to somebody new, enjoy the cookies. If you feel like leaving $1 in the back to help with cookies or the eggnog, we would appreciate it. So thanks for being here, and have a safe and happy holidays.